Het-Heru Nefer, Assalamu alaikum. Namaste. This is Cosmological Perspective with another live broadcast for you. Well, some of you may be watching this recorded. So anyway, today I want to talk to you about how to become a genius. Whoops, I got a thing going on here. Hold on one second. Okay, we got that fixed now. Sorry about that. So I want to talk to you about how to become a genius, all right? And I'm going to go over a lot of concepts here. It may seem like I'm all over the place, but just follow along with me. But first, start out, hit the like button, subscribe to my channel if you like my videos and you want to see more and get notifications for more videos. And also be sure to share it with family and friends. It's important that we get this information out there. It's cutting edge, it's new, it's revolutionary, and we want to take back the planet because the planet is under siege. We live in a prison planet, and the space-time continuum has been disrupted, and we're headed toward a dystopia, a dark future. All right. So how to become a genius? Well, you know what? I hear a lot of people talking in the conspiracy theory arena or the occult arena or the new age arena, whatever label definition you want to put on it, about like how did the ancient Egyptians, Kemetic people, or Kamau, build the pyramids? And it's still to this day a mystery. And it's only, and I put forth this to you, it's only a mystery because we are stupid. We're in a stupor state, meaning that the goal of the higher institutions of learning, or let's say, whatever, I'm not going to just single out any one university. I don't want to, them coming after me going, how could you disparage us? But the goal of these universities is to miseducate you. And they do it on a number of levels. And I'm not going to get into all of that. I mean, it's clear that they falsify history. And what you're learning is not our true history, because that has changed. I said before, prior, that the space-time continuum has been disrupted. So we know that, for example, Louis Leakey has documented that life began in Africa, and we can trace that back to about 200,000 years. Well, there's some problems with that because in only 200,000 years, we have gotten to the process of a Darwinian adaptation. The best adapt will survive. We've come from what they call is the apes, and to now Homo sapiens and what have you. But that 200,000 years is a very short, relatively short period of time for us to develop so quickly and so rapidly. And also, they still haven't discovered the missing link that connects us to what they perceive or want to call as the apes, which we do not descend from these apes. So let's put it that way. But anyway, so on that level, there's a lot of falsification of history. They do it on purpose to mislead us. And the overall goal is to dumb down society. Now, a lot of people in New Age movement understand this, so they've embarked on two things. Number one, they've embarked on homeschooling their kids, or what they're doing is they want to start their own schools. And to that I say, both options are nonsense. It won't make any difference because your frame of thinking is screwed up. And I've said this repeatedly, that we as people, especially citizens of the United States, are very ill. And unless we address that fact, we're not going to make any progress in what we teach our children or any other private institution that we start. We have to first look at ourselves and say there's something really wrong with us. And it's not our fault. Because we have been indoctrinated into a system that prides itself on creating ill and sick people. And what I mean by that is that we are thinking predominantly out of the left brain. We're polarized in left brain thinking. And when you're polarized in left brain thinking, all you're seeing is right, wrong, left, right. He's my enemy. I'm the good person. And you don't understand the principle of duality. You don't understand how to hold two opposing views and let them live together in harmony. So we walk around, everything that we see, we perceive it in this contradictory sense. And I did a great video that's, if you remember if you're a supporter on Patreon, I did a great video which actually talks about the Chinese philosophy of yin and yang, which definitely explores how the Chinese, the ancient Chinese, were right brain, integrated brain thinkers, or dual brain thinkers, which is they create an entire system around that, which evolved around the yin and yang principle, where these two weren't separate, but they were each individual components of a whole system or process. And this is where we find ourselves now, because we have gone through an education system, we have gone through a society which prides itself on linear left brain thinking. And that has caused so much trouble in the world. So when you have these savants or these geniuses like Einstein or Nikola Tesla or Imhotep, they're heralded. We're like, wow, these are great. And you notice I left Albert. I left. I'm sorry, what's his name? Thomas Edison out of that because he was not a genius. He was a thief. But anyway, so and you notice how these individuals like Nikola Tesla, Imhotep, the multi-genius, you don't learn about these people in school, and there's a specific reason for that. You know, CIA confiscated a lot of Nikola Tesla's notes. And that's because they don't want you to understand the power of the right brain thinking and how that could literally overnight change things and you would produce geniuses. All right. It's no doubt. This is why I say the higher institutions of learning are a freaking joke. Not just because you're paying all of this tuition to go in there and learn and you come out and you come out in debt and you can't get a job, but the things that you learn are just point blank incorrect. So what I want to do is I just want to cover some examples so you can get an overall picture of what is going on and how we can get back to that true knowledge of building those pyramids. And that is because, again, we're in this stupor state. You have to say that the ruling elite want us to be consumers. They want us to be emotionally reactive and not tap into the higher self of who we are, which is Osir, the indwelling intelligence within us. They are very afraid of that because that competes against them, because this oligarchy is hidden away. They don't want you to see them or know them. You know, you think like Bill Gates and all these other the oil sheiks and or princes or whatever are the real billionaires. The ruling elite, the oligarchy, are trillionaires. These people have so much wealth, and they're engaged in interbreeding. They're engaged in genetic engineering. They produce their own geniuses, and so I've often told people, I said, listen, if you think that you are going to come up against them and be victorious, you're out of your mind, because they know how to produce super geniuses. You know, I'm talking like beyond Lex Luthor level. All right. So think about that. Now, the thing that I'm saying is that, first of all, we've got to get into the idea of dual brain thinking. That has to be the basis of everything. That's how we have to start. Because if you're not taking into consideration, and we could say this way, yin and yang, or the male and the female principle, then everything that you do is going to be skewed and out of whack. Hence, you have a Bible that was really written by man, and God is as a male gender, which is something's very wrong about that. And no one can see that. You know what I mean? Yet you have people these Christians going to church, these people who profess to be Islamic, reading the Quran, and all they're getting out of it is this very male centric view. So we have to start looking at what our ancient ancestors did, which was a cosmological perspective. And a cosmological perspective takes into account what? Number one, we discard the idea for a moment of Cartesian logic, meaning that everything has to have a one-to-one correlation, which is not true. Which is the basis of, when you look at the basis of homeopathic medicine and in Chinese medicine, it talks about how like a pain in your left toe could be the problem you're having with your right hip, even though it seems at first there's no connection between the right toe and the pain in your hip. But there is this indirect correlation, which Chinese medicine takes into account. But Western medicine, again, based on that Cartesian logic, doesn't see that, because it has to be a one-to-one correlation. So your doctor would say, well, did you bump your hip? Or did you bump your toe? but they're not seeing also that the stress that you endure on a day-to-day basis can crystallize or calcify into actual illnesses such as cancer, such as sores or blisters, because the stress releases certain types of hormones which can cause that. But we don't take that in consideration because everything has to have that linear, straight one-to-one correlation. And much of this that we're getting from these learning institutions, meaning it's Cartesian logic, this Hegelian dialectic, comes out of the Greek learning institutions, which are like put on this pedestal. The Greek philosophers, the Greek learning. And what we don't understand is you want to elevate these individuals, but many of these individuals were pedophiles. Many of these individuals elevated the left brain. And this is I'm talking about later in Greek civilization, because the early Greek civilization that was birthed was a direct relationship to Egypt. So many of the early learnings and teachings came directly out of ancient Kemet, Egypt, and they were on the right course. But when left to their own devices, they started to gear off into the weirdness and stuff, where the Greek philosophers they thought that engaging in a discourse or debate was very good. Egyptians didn't practice that. That's all left brain verbal dialogue to arrive at some conclusion about what truth is. So anyway, we have to look at the indirect relationships between things, which brings into point the cosmological thinking. When we go to schools, it is incumbent upon our professors to be held accountable for how well the students do, and they are not. Many times I'll give you a personal example with me. When I went to college, I found it very racist. I found it very sexist. And when I mean sexist, I saw that the professors were giving the women better grades for certain things than they were the men, because the women would smile and act innocent, and the professors would basically placate to them. All right. What the institutions of learning don't do is to teach you how to think. What they do is they teach you rote memorization. So the better you can remember something and regurgitate it, the more educated you are. And there is an effort right now. They're putting out a lot of propaganda, and this propaganda is based on the fact that they're trying to create gender wars. So they'll say, well, Latino and Black women are the most educated out of all Americans, which is an absolute lie. So if you're able to parrot something, does it really mean you're educated? Because this society has not produced anybody on the level of the Imhotep or Nikola Tesla. So don't tell me most educated. You must mean the person with the most ability to remember and regurgitate information, erroneous, incorrect information that you fed them. That's what you're talking about. All right. We don't understand the basics of the divisions of thinking. And what I mean by that, I'm looking at abstract analysis, synthesis, congregative, segregative. These are the most important to look at and see, does an individual have a grasp on synthesis thinking? Do they have a grasp on congregative thinking? Do they have a grasp on syllogistic thinking? Do they have a grasp on things like abstract analysis? If they don't, that is the prerequisite by which everything else has to happen. If any one of those areas are failing, then their thinking process, their cognitive skills are off. Do you understand what I mean? If the individuals are too right brain, then they're off. If they're too left brain, then they're off. This is where the professors have to start. And another thing they have to look at is how the student learns. Do they learn through visual, auditory, tactile, or kinesthetic? Because those are individual processing centers that allows them to assimilate information. If any one of those areas is lacking, then there's a problem. The whole cosmological framework doesn't work then. But we don't look at things like that. And another thing that we don't look at, because it seems too esoteric and out there, is the fact that you are born under a certain zodiac astrological sign. Pisces have problem communicating verbally because there are no words that can communicate the array of emotions and experiences. We lack the American bastardized language of the English doesn't have certain words that can communicate certain emotions. We're lacking in that. So for a Piscean or a person who's a Pisces, they come up short when it comes to their auditory skills. Do you understand what I mean? So you can look at the zodiac sign and you can see the strengths. A Sagittarius is good at auditory skills. A Sagittarius is good at debate. They make good speakers. A lot of the pimp pastor ministers, some of them are Sagittarius. So I can go on in that, but because it's under the guise of astrology, it's looked at as voodoo, or is looked at as too esoteric. Meanwhile, you have the CIA and other government agencies which will put together a criminal profile of a serial killer, and they'll have all these indexes that they can check off to indicate what type they can profile and what type of person they're looking for. But they don't consider that bad because you know, the astrological system does the same thing. Same thing with the Myers-Briggs type indicator. If you know about that actually quantifies you as a certain type of person. And I think it's really a good system. But yet the Myers-Briggs type indicator can do that. But when it comes to astrology, then everybody freaks out. You understand what I'm saying? And the reason why they freak out is because they don't want you to get into super learning, super knowledge, accelerated learning. They don't want you to get into that, because then that's a game changer. So let's move on. Our ancestors already put in place a system that can take you from here to the stars and make you a genius. They already put into the system that, and there's a number of ways that it's done. It can be done through accessing the Akashic records, because there is already a storehouse of knowledge in the esoteric realm that we can go through meditation, go through right brain, and pull out, and it's readily accessible. But we're not taught transcenduction, we're not taught meditation, so we don't know about the Akashic records. But certain people of history have known about it, and they have tapped into it to bring knowledge to civilization. All right. Let's go deeper. Reincarnation. We are all ancestors. We've been on this planet for a while. We've been reborn. We come here with a destiny. Well, I know that in my past life, I was into astronomy. Now, if my parents would have got my astrological chart and took me to a high priest, he would have said this child was an astronomer in his past life. Put him in astronomy class. Have him study that, have him go to university that teaches astronomy. But that never happened. When you do that, the child builds on previous life experience knowledge and becomes a super genius. Again, but our society does not support that. Another thing is communication with spirits and ancestors. There are different dimensional realms where you have different spirits that are readily available to impart knowledge and wisdom to you if you only ask them. I remember the first time a spirit came into my my room, it scared the hell out of me. And at that point in my priesthood studies, I'll tell you honestly, I didn't believe in the esoteric and the supernatural. I didn't believe in that. But when that spirit came in, it freaked me out. And it came again when my girlfriend had stayed over, and it woke her up and scared the hell out of her. And that's when I began to realize, wow, there's more to life than what we're being taught. So there's spirit communication that can actually impart to you some really phenomenal wisdom and knowledge, but we don't dabble in that. And the people that are looking into this, and this this is old school. This is like a audio tape. It's called Super Learning 2000, and this actually goes through the Russians as how they pioneered super accelerated learning. And here's one of the books that was authored by Sheila Ostringer, and it's really deep and good, which talks about, you know, like their whole thing about how they were training their students to go into trance, and they would teach them their lessons while in trance state. The other thing that we have to get back into is subliminal, what they call is subliminal seduction, or the ability to take music and under that music put a curriculum under that. That has shown to actually increase the IQ of students and increase retention, memory of those subject matters. Also, bilinear beats as well. And there's a lot of these subliminal tapes that can accelerate learning, improve cognitive skills that are on the internet. And you listen to the music, and what it does is it communicates to the brain on a different level. Now, the one thing that is so great about our brains is we have something called neuroplasticity, meaning that the brain can adapt and form new synaptic connections. So you can learn a lot. And there's no such thing as a child or a person who's stupid or who doesn't have intelligence. We all have intelligence, but it's a matter of training the individual to learn, or the individual understanding their strengths and weaknesses, and then helping the individual with their weaknesses. Because again, through neuroplasticity, we all have the ability to be geniuses, super geniuses. Okay. Now, as I was alluding to earlier, I talked about that there are Genie I, spirits that exist in the alternate dimensions that we can tap into. And these Genie I work already with us. We just don't know it. Some of them are responsible for different areas, such as music, math, verbal skills. All right. And if you want to improve in any one of these areas, you would contact the Genie I and, petition the Genie I for help. So the short way to do this is through hakao, or mantras. And for every Genie I, there is a mantra that if you recite the mantra, you vibrate at a certain frequency. Such as if you want to be a master mathematician, you would appeal to a certain Genie I, and then you would recite the mantra and look at the sigil, and that would basically activate certain psychic centers so that you would activate the ability you already have, which is to be a math genius. And here's a book that really gives the details on how that's done. It's called the Metu Neta, Volume 6, The Raw Initiation System. And in this system, it goes over the Genie Eyes and the mantras, so if it goes over the career functions, depending upon what career, like if you want to be a police officer, there is a Genie I that governs that and can make you TJ Hooker, or who's the best, am I dating myself there? Who's a good police officer now? I don't know. Just say if you want to be James Bond, there's a Genie I who can make you very clever, suave, so just about any field you can think, these Genie I exist, and they're waiting to assist us if we can awaken that which is already within us. Now, remember what I've always said in my teachings, right? That these aspects, these Genie I, are not outside, but they are within you. Okay. Oh, is that, I'm sorry, I don't want to mispronounce your name. Is that Suan? So that's a good question. So Suan's question is, how can you aid learning to a resistant child? Okay. And at that very early age, you have to make it fun for the child. Meditation. And then you play along with the child. You say, you know what, let's communicate to a good angel. Recite this mantra. Let's play and sing it together. And then you and the child singing the mantra together will awaken the psychic centers within the mantra. But always make it fun and exciting. Don't scare a child by saying, we're going to communicate with deep, dark spirits. You don't want to do that. Okay. But you always want to make it fun and engaging with children. And what I find a lot with parents is that they just throw their child into the system and say, you educate them. And if you do that, you're going to have a child that's going to come out. They're going to be a consumer. They're going to be based on a Sahu nature. Sahu means the animal spirit, because that's what the learning institutions want to do. Because I'm telling you, what they need to be doing in school also is to put together a vegan diet, because the vegan diet basically will help get you into a right brain. The meat, being a carnivore, affects your health. And it makes you more aggressive, and that produces more adrenaline. And that's the exact thing you don't want to produce. To learn is to produce more adrenaline, because that makes you more externally focused and not internally focused. And true learning is going within, which brings me to another aspect or technique, which is Hootie. We know that, hey, Paul, how's it going? We know that Hootie or Jehuti, or as the Chinese would say, the Tao, is learning from within. You see, the supreme being, source, Het-Heru, created us with all the knowledge in the world. We don't need a book. This is why when they went into Kemet, the Egyptologists, and they looked for books on religion, books on science, books on how to play those musical instruments, they couldn't find any of that, because the Tao, Tehute, is fluid, energetic. We didn't put things into writing. Writing is a purely left brain concrete thinking. Now, let me preface that. We did put certain things into writing, okay? But we did it in a way where we had an understanding of both the left and right brain, which is why if you go to the Medu Neter, or the hieroglyphics, you will see that there were 3 distinct forms of writing: hieratic, demonic, and hieroglyphics, each one appealing to a certain hemisphere of the brain. That's beautiful. That shows that the ancestors knew how to create super geniuses, because they knew you couldn't have one form of writing to speak to just one hemisphere of the brain. You had to have different writings that would communicate to different centers of the brain. So think about that. This is how we were able to create civilizations such as Kemet, such as Atlantis. And this is why the ruling elite burned down the Library of Alexandria, because that contained the wisdom that we were able to document through the dual brain process of thinking. Now, let me take it to another level, all right? Not only are the learning institutions of stupidity, and I don't care who likes or doesn't like that, because there are learning institutions of stupidity. And when I was in university, I was like, I got to get the hell out of here. And I'm going to tell you, I had the hardest time, and I didn't know what was wrong, but I knew something was wrong. You understand what I'm saying? I could feel it, because I'm reincarnated from Kemet. So what they were teaching did not mesh well with my spirit. And I was saying something's not right here. Something's not right here. So as soon as I left college, I started biohacking. Now, let me explain what biohacking is, all right? Biohacking is kind of like when you stack certain nootropics, and nootropics are neurotransmitters. And these are basically herbs, vitamins, things of that nature. And you'll find them on the internet under the title of smart drugs. So I said, you know what? I'm too right-brained. I knew I was, that I did know. I knew I was too right-brained. So I said, I've got to take Hyperzine A. That will get me into the more left brain process. So if you are a computer programmer, or you're aspiring to be a computer programmer, or you're doing math, Hyperzine A is perfect for you, and you should be taking that in small doses. But see, now here's the deal. The stupid universities don't take in consideration health or smart drugs. But you know who does? In San Francisco, Silicon Valley, a lot of the top programmers and heads of startups are into biohacking, are into smart drugs. They know they want, because they want to be the next Bill Gates or Steve Jobs. So what they're doing is they're experimenting with these smart drugs, mixing and matching and creating their own laboratories. And this is exactly what the university should be doing. When you go to a university, they should be able to do a test on you, and they should be able to prescribe a smart drug to help you with your studies. They, like I said before, they should be able to determine, okay, you're producing too much adrenaline, you need more acetylcholine in your system, so we're going to prescribe this to help you. What they're doing is they're diagnosing kids with ADHD or whatever it's called, and then giving them some weird drugs to make them robotic. This is not what we should be doing. And as you get deeper into the underworld of Silicon Valley, you'll find that they're doing some really interesting things, and they're passing this information in their little circles. You know what I mean? like Adderall. They're taking Adderall to increase their cognitive functions. Now, we in the occult community have known about this. So what have we been doing in the occult community? Many have been experimenting with DMT and communicating with interdimensional beings and getting knowledge and wisdom from DMT. DMT lasts about 5 minutes, but it's profound in terms of its effect. And others of us have been experimenting with ayahuasca, which lasts about 6 hours. And then there you communicate with spirits and get knowledge and wisdom out there. And there's other things that they're doing on the cutting edge, and it's increasing their creativity. It's increasing their response time and problem solving. But this is what the universities should have done. This is what the universities are supposed to do. And I'm telling you, if you want your child to grow up and to be the smartest person they can be, get into smart drugs. Research nootropics. Otherwise, they're going to be regurgitating the same old nonsense that comes out of these universities. And these universities scare me because now they're teaching these women this feminist nonsense. Nothing wrong with saying, we need to be on par with men. Nothing wrong with saying that. But the stuff that's being taught is coming out of these what do you call it? The think tank institutions like Tavistock, which have worked in conjunction with the CIA to basically socially engineer people. So they want you to go toward the way of George Orwell's 1984, to where you will fight for your own enslavement. Do you understand what I'm saying? So for us to move forward and to be the people we once were and built the pyramids, we have to now look at things totally different and disregard the nonsense we're being taught. I do not accept the fact that I have to go to university and come out with a degree and in debt to be considered valuable. I am Osir. Osir is the indwelling intelligence within me. All the wisdom and knowledge of the universe is within me. I just got to learn to tap into it. Whether it be a mantra, whether it be a smart drug, whether it be understanding what hemisphere of the brain I'm polarized in, whether it be what's the best way I learn best through tactile learning, or maybe you're best at visual or kinesthetic. But these are the things we have to start looking at. And the Imhoteps and the Nikola Teslas should not be like these figures in history that we look back and go, wow, these guys are geniuses. Everyone should be on their level. Everyone, because the information is readily available to us if we just take part in it and reject the current and predominant system. So, let's get in. Let's go back to what our ancestors had laid out for us. The information is there. It's still in the Akashic records. We can access that and pull that down. So I advise you to, get some books. I mean, I've already talked about this book is a great book to start. Super Learning is another book. And here is a phenomenal book. If you really want to get deep into this, this is by Franz Barden. Okay. This book here. And this is called The Practice of Magical Evocation. Okay. And in here, he lists all of the Genie I, and he has the sigils for the Genie I, and he has the mantras for the Genie I. So, for example, if you, let's just say hypothetically, right, you're not good with talking to men or talking to women, and that you want to have game, as they so call it, there's a Genie I for that can help you be more romantic, be more attractive. Okay. Let's say that you repair automobiles and you want to be the best in that field. There's a Genie I for that. All right. So, and they've already done the research. And I'm talking about Western science has already done the research to prove and document that this stuff works. But the universities will never tell you this because their tuition is at stake, their credentials are at stake. If they all of a sudden start to tell you these things, it's just like the pharmaceutical industry. Like I used to work for them. The pharmaceutical industry is not going to tell you that vitamins can help prevent certain diseases. They're not going to tell you that, because they make money off of selling you these medications would have all of these bad side effects. But anyway, I don't want to go off the subject too much here. All right, so this concludes my presentation. I really hope that this resonates with you, that you understand what I'm saying in terms of producing geniuses and really starting with the children, because they are the future. So hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and if you're looking to do a reading to find out what your specialty is, which I call a career reading, it tells you what you should be doing and what you have an aptitude for, sign up at the link below. It's the second link. The first link is if you want to be a Patreon supporter, where you will receive exclusive videos and tutorials on things that go beyond this teaching here in my broadcast. So, my beloved, until the next time, this is Kasank Ma'a Keperu, son of Ma'at. I wish you well, and that's all for now.